It is very difficult for some reason to obtain permission to treat patients in the United States. I think this country has the finest bureaucratic regulations in the world, and the other countries are way behind. Here, the patient has to go to very difficult bureaucratic process, which usually most of the patients will not be able to go through because they die during the process. For some reason, they don't want to have cure of cancer.
My name is Sergeant Rick Schiff. I'm an 11-year veteran of the San Francisco Police Department. I hold the department's highest Medal of Honor for bravery. That used to mean a lot more to me than it does now. What I'd like to talk to you about today is my now 7-year-old daughter. This is an identical twin. Her sister is now dead. Her sister, when she was 4 years old, Kristen, developed a highly malignant brain tumor that had spread throughout her spine and her brain. The doctors told us that we had really two options: take her home, let her die, or bring her in for massive dosages of chemo and radiation simultaneously. In either event, she was going to die. They were quite certain of that, and very quickly. Believing her only chance to be the standard route, we gave her the chemo and radiation. It burned her skull so bad she had second-degree burns and her hair never came back. To change her diapers, we had to wear rubber gloves because her urine was so toxic and it burned her. She still had cancer. We were told, sorry, we've done everything we can. Now she's going to die, probably within a couple of months. My wife and I, choosing not to accept that, started reading. The first book I picked up, the third chapter, discussed Dr. Burzynski. As you may guess, I have some expertise in fraud. In fact, I'm quite certain there are enough attorneys in the room that I could be vordeered as an expert in fraud. And I conducted my own investigation. I have no doubt the man is not a fraud. I have no doubt that he does what he does out of earnest belief that his medicine works. And now you're in a position to judge for yourselves whether it works or not, but it's well established by the FDA that it's non-toxic. 18 months later, we took my daughter off the antineoplaston. She had not died. She had no signs of tumor. She remained free for 18 months of cancer. She died last July of neurological necrosis. Her brain fell apart from the radiation. The autopsy showed that she was completely cancer-free. Out of 52 cases of that disease ever, no one died cancer-free, just Chrissy. So she didn't die of a terminal illness. She died of my inability to care for her properly, and she died from bad advice. She died because there's a government institution that disseminates false information and is not looking out for the welfare of the people. You know, ladies and gentlemen, I swore an oath 11 years ago, and I think most of us in this room swore it at one time or another, to uphold the Constitution. It says life right in the beginning.
A Polish native named Stanislaw Burzynski attended Lublin Medical University, where he graduated first in his class at age 24, and then received his PhD in biochemistry the following year. While undergoing his research to acquire his PhD, Dr. Burzynski made a profound discovery. He found a strain of peptides in human blood and urine that had never before been recorded in biomedical research. As his curiosity in these peptides evolved, he made another profound observation. People who were inflicted with cancer seemed to lack these newly discovered peptides in both their blood and urine, while those who were healthy and free of cancer appeared to have an abundance of these peptides. Dr. Burzynski theorized that if he could somehow provide a way to chemically extract these peptides from the blood and urine of healthy donors, and administer these peptides to those with cancer, perhaps it could be useful in treating the disease.
Before I started, I asked the lawyers for the advice. Can I use experimental treatment, which was the treatment with antineoplastons? Can I use this in my private practice, and can I be involved in cancer research? Simple as the private company.
Dr. Burzynski's attorneys verified that as long as he kept his activities within the state of Texas, he wasn't breaking any federal laws. However, Dr. Burzynski could not introduce antineoplastons into interstate commerce, which means he had to keep his activities only within the state of Texas to avoid breaking any federal laws. However, once word got out that Dr. Burzynski was curing terminal cancer in Texas, people began traveling from all over the country to receive antineoplaston.
We're talking with Dr. Stanislaw Burzynski, who is an MD and a PhD, has done some experimental work in the area of cancer. How is your research funded?
Initially, my research was funded from National Cancer Institute and from Baylor College of Medicine. After I decided to open my laboratory, the only funds available for me were loans from the banks, patients' fees, and payments from the insurance companies.
Could you stand for just a minute, Dr. Gardner? This is Dr. Harold Gardner. Now, is there anything about this that you find controversial? I mean, his treatment, does it have a good scientific background hypothesis and really controlled studies behind it?
Yes, as the science of investigation goes, Dr. Burzynski's studies have been quite professional, certainly as creditable as most at Wayne State and the University of Michigan and others, which I'm tied to directly. The controversy is less in his approach on a therapy basis than it is his approach organizationally. And much of the medical and hospital industry operates as a very closed shop. And if you have ideas that might in one way or another jeopardize that economic base, you fall into disfavor very quickly.
That is an incredible statement that you've just made.
And I've been involved with several patients who have chosen options in Europe and in Canada. And those options are not available in this country because of economic and organizational reasons, not because of scientific reasons.
Thank you.
For a long time, I didn't have any contact with Texas Board of Medical Examiners until around 1984. Some of my patients told me that they were approached by the agents sent to them from Texas Board of Medical Examiners, who were trying to convince them to file complaints against me. So this was shocking to me. And what is surprising, that they were using the state money, they were using taxpayers' money to travel long distance, like from Houston to California, to convince our patients who were in California to file complaints against me. This was completely irrational.
After nearly 10 years of harassment toward he and his patients, the Texas Medical Board finally took Burzynski to court in May of 1993.
I never was quite clear what the board's problem was. The board did not bring any expert witnesses to contest points that were raised by Dr. Burzynski. Now, without an expert witness to render an opinion in certain areas, I can't give any credence to opinion raised by a layman. And Dr. Burzynski brought in Dr. Nicholas Petronas.
Some of the most dramatic testimony on Dr. Burzynski's behalf came from Dr. Nicholas Petronas,
Doctor, I want you to have a seat up here, please.
a Georgetown University expert who was a member of the National Cancer Institute's team that analyzed 7 of Dr. Burzynski's cases.
The basic conclusion was that in 5 of the patients with brain tumors that were fairly large, the tumor resolved, disappeared. It's amazing. The fact that they are living, it's impressive and unbelievable.
He was quite a witness. He said he had never seen anything like what Dr. Burzynski was able to accomplish with his antineoplastons in brain cancer. He had one young boy there who had been treated. He was about 12 at the hearing, strapping lad, good-sized boy. But when he was first started on treatment when he was about 4 years old, I think his name was Paul, he was given up on by his original doctor.
When Mary Michaels took the stand on behalf of her son Paul, she trained her eyes on the state's attorney.
I mean, I have enough to worry about when I go to bed at night about my son and my family. I don't need to worry that this treatment's going to be taken away.
What do you think might happen if Oh, never mind. Never mind. I have no other questions.
For all I know, the kid may still be alive.
The tumors will grow, they will lose the vision, they will be paralyzed, and they will die, because there's nothing in the world which can be used to save these patients' life.
You intend to continue doing just what you've been doing until somebody is able to stop you. Is that not true?
I'm going to do what the law will allow me to do, Mr. Helcom. I do whatever is necessary to bring my medicines to approval in the United States and everywhere in the world, and bring you to justice for causing the death of 200 patients. And they will come back here to haunt you until we are dead.
Are you threatening me, Dr. Burzynski?
I'm not threatening you, but that's what's going to happen in the future.
Well, I think that's something that'll remains to be seen.
They weren't real happy with me. I could tell that from the way they were talking to me and asking questions. Then they told me after they were going to rewrite my proposal for decision and take adverse action against Dr. Burzynski, and I said I thought that was rather foolish.
The state of Texas wants Houston doctor Stanislaw Burzynski to stop treating his patients with drugs he produces at his own pharmaceutical plant. The drugs called antineoplastons are non-toxic compounds of proteins and amino acids, often lacking in cancer patients. Even though the state of Texas acknowledges that the drugs may be helping some who are terminally ill, the state says the drugs shouldn't be used. This is the State Board of Medical Examiners, which licenses doctors in Texas. This is the agency challenging Dr. Burzynski in court. One judge has already told the board members that they don't have a case.
All of this nonsense which is going now should disappear, because they should realize that I am right, okay? They're fighting losing battle. I am saving human lives, and if they put me out of business, the people will die.
This is the brain of an 8-year-old boy with a huge tumor most thought would kill him. He used Dr. Burzynski's drug. Images of his skull taken 6 years later show the tumor has almost disappeared.
Dr. Bradley-Cohen is the director of neurologic oncology at the prestigious Cleveland Clinic.
The only explanation is that it shrunk because of the therapy Paul has received.
He confirmed Dr. Burzynski's results on Paul.
7 years that we've had Paul, and he's been healthy, and I owe it to this man. And there's no way that I'd ever be able to thank him enough for what he's done for us.
Today, that boy, Paul Michaels, and his anxious family sit in the courtroom with other patients.
Undeterred by the 1993 ruling, the Texas Medical Board took Dr. Burzynski to a higher district court.
The Texas State Board of Medical Examiners, which has fought to suspend Dr. Burzynski's license because his treatments have never been approved, says, quote, the efficacy of antineoplastons in the treatment of human cancers is not of issue in these proceedings.
It takes a bureaucrat to come up with that idea, because a layman, that would really be the question.
Well, Dr. Burzynski has won his latest round in court. The medical examiner's order was reversed, but that is not expected to be the end of his trouble with the state of Texas.
The Texas Medical Board took this case all the way to the Texas State Supreme Court, leaving the Texas Medical Board completely unsuccessful in their efforts to remove his medical license. So, if efficacy was not an issue, and Dr. Burzynski wasn't breaking any laws, then why would the Texas Medical Board continue on with this empty pursuit? Well, it was eventually realized, even by the mainstream press, that the Food and Drug Administration had been pressuring the Texas Medical Board to continue trying to take away Dr. Burzynski's medical license.
For this story, we wanted to talk to the FDA about its policies and procedures. The agency did agree to talk to us on background where it wouldn't be quoted, but it repeatedly refused our requests for on-camera interviews.
While they were busy pressuring the Texas State Medical Board to try to revoke Dr. Burzynski's medical license, they were even busier trying to revoke Dr. Burzynski completely from society by trying to place him in prison. And so, the fiercest fight in FDA history began.
Dr. Burzynski's dealings with the FDA commenced in 1983. At that point, the FDA commenced a civil action to try to close the clinic and stop all patients from receiving the medicine.
Before the judge in this case had announced her ruling, the FDA sent her a letter warning her in advance, if this court declines to grant the injunction sought by the government, thus permitting continued manufacture and distribution of antineoplastons, the government would then be obliged to pursue other less efficient remedies, such as actions for seizure, also known as raiding his clinic and home, and condemnation of the drugs, also known as a propaganda campaign, or criminal prosecution of individuals, also known as throwing Dr. Burzynski in prison, regardless of these threats from the FDA.
The judge in the case basically said that he can treat anybody he wants in Texas, but he can't ship his medicine in interstate commerce. The FDA viewed that as a failure and told Dr. Burzynski's at the time, his attorneys at the time, that they have other ways to get him. Let's talk about the other ways. In 1985, the FDA convened a grand jury to hear evidence to try to indict Dr. Burzynski. In connection with that, they had a raid of his clinic where they seized 200,000 pieces of paper, including all of his medical records of all patients. A little difficult to practice medicine when you don't have medical records.
Obviously, they came armed and they confiscated all of our medical records. And it took us about 12 years or 14 years to recover these medical records. In the meantime, we are permitted to make copies of the medical records in their office, but it was also the neglect of human well-being. We are treating very sick people. They took medical records, and we needed these medical records to really fight for the lives of these patients, but they took this away. They didn't care for these patients. The patients could die. They were not important.
They presented the evidence to the grand jury, no indictment. 1986, they come back, seize another 100,000 documents, no indictment.
I just have real trouble in knowing how much pain and what people go through with cancer. And since 1967, you've been saying, I can take care of that, and people are going, forget it, don't pay any attention, and you've gone outside the country and they say fine, and here we say no. Are we that backward, doctor?
Yes.
Well, what do you mean? Yes. Are we that backward?
Yeah, it's difficult for doctors to belie 10, 12 years of training and go against that and believe that some guy from Houston has come up with something.
Isn't part of your problem that the treatment of cancer is a very profitable industry for a lot of companies, and that your treatment right now will eat into those companies' profits?
Bingo.
They'll do anything.
1990, another grand jury, either the second or the third. They present more documents. Dr. Burzynski testifies extensively before the grand jury, no indictment. 1991 to 1993. FDA investigates Dr. Burzynski. We don't know if evidence was presented to another grand jury. 1994, another grand jury, no indictment. 1995, another grand jury. This grand jury started in March of this year. On March 25th, I believe, it was Dr. Burzynski, along with a few of his patients, appeared on CBS show This Morning.
Let me play devil's advocate. Here you all, very desperate folk, had undergone some cancer treatment, correct?
No.
None at all for you?
I
None
had
at all
no
for you.
treatment.
Let me go after these guys then for a second. Had undergone some treatment. Could it not have been that the treatment that you received prior to Dr. Burzynski's treatment was what, in fact, really cured you?
Well, I'll jump on that. No way, because the recurrence I had was in a brand new spot that had not been involved before. So if all the punishment that I went through for the year went out of my system, and after it went out of my system, all of a sudden a new tumor comes in, how could that first treatment have helped the subsequent tumor?
Later that day, the FDA came another raid, more patient documents, more subpoenas.
We were flooded with calls last Friday with people wanting to know how to get a hold of you. They're going to see this story this morning, see that you've been raided by the FDA, and they're going to want to know if you're for real or if the concerns of the FDA may have something to do with your treatments and the viability of your treatments.
Let me jump in here. The FDA isn't saying that it's not safe, and the FDA isn't even saying that it doesn't work. Right now, they're just contesting, or apparently they're contesting whether Dr. Burzynski himself has been shipping the medicine out of state, which in some respects is quite ridiculous since he has approval to ship the medicine out of state to various cancer institutions around the country. He ships it out of the country to various countries because it's being used in other places, and he ships it to individuals who have been granted permission by the FDA to receive the medicine under what's called a compassionate use INDs.
Okay.
May, June, and July, more witnesses testified before the grand jury, more documents. So we've had now 4, 5, or 6 grand juries. Let me talk about the subpoena practices. Most recently, the FDA has now subpoenaed the medical records of every patient who has gone on TV and told their story about Dr. Burzynski. We'll let the committee judge what they think of that. We talk about dissemination of false information by the FDA. 1985, FDA tells anyone who calls and inquiring about Dr. Burzynski that he's being criminally investigated. When the judge on the case found out about that, he issued a cease and desist and a strong reprimand against that. The FDA now has refined this tactic. Instead of waiting for people to call up the FDA, what they've done is subpoena all the records from Dr. Burzynski about his business associates and all the researchers around the world, and there are many of them who are researching antineoplastons, his therapy. Now what they're doing is systematically contacting everyone who does business with him, who may do business with him, and telling about the grand jury investigation, subpoenaing documents. I believe that they're doing this in order to make the FDA, to make it more difficult for him to do business. I'd like the following questions to be asked the FDA. How much money have they spent in the last 10 years to try to put Dr. Burzynski out of business? How many documents can they subpoena, and how many more grand juries does he have to go to? And why can't patients who have advanced cancer seek the medical treatment of their choice?
Upon the commencement of the FDA's 1995 grand jury against Dr. Burzynski, an oversight and investigation subcommittee was organized by Congressman Joe Barton in an attempt to intervene in the FDA's relentless harassment of Dr. Burzynski and his patients.
In my opinion, you have every right to use the investigative authority and the judicial resources of the federal government through the Justice Department to convene a grand jury. That's very appropriate. The first time, perhaps even the second time. It becomes questionable the third time, the fourth time, and the fifth time.
If you convene 4 separate grand juries and there's no indictment returned, notwithstanding the prosecutors tell us always that it's possible to indict a ham sandwich, that probably there's not much there.
The FDA has made a list and decided who can live and who will die. I guess I didn't make that list.
I've had no chemotherapy. I've had no radiation. I chose Dr. Burzynski instead. I've been in remission since 1989.
Look at him. He biked 32 miles after being on Dr. Burzynski's treatment for 2 months. And they're saying we can't have it?
Now the FDA is saying to me, no. Your doctor is a criminal. He should be put in jail and he needs to be shut down.
This is criminal.
I did not want to undergo chemotherapy, which I had a new name for, chemotherapy, or any type of radiation. I was extremely lucky I found Dr. Burzynski. I came 18 years ago from communist Romania, and the tyrannous dictator Ceausescu never stopped a doctor from treating anybody. How can we have something like this in the United States?
Barely a week after these hearings, on November 20th, 1995, Dr. Stanislaw Burzynski was indicted. Burzynski was charged with 75 counts of violating federal law and fraud. If convicted, Burzynski would face a maximum of 290 years in a federal prison and $18.5 million in fines. Not to mention what would happen to his patients.
He is their last chance for life, but now the federal government is issuing a death sentence for the patients of this cancer doctor.
I believe that most of these 300 people will die within a short period of time if the treatment is stopped.
In 1996, not only did scores of Dr. Burzynski's patients return to Washington, D.C. to protest his indictment, but many of them testified again before another congressional hearing headed by Congressman Joe Barton.
Now, in February of 1994, our lives were drastically changed. My son Dustin was only 2.5 years old at the time. He was diagnosed with a brain tumor the size of a golf ball. The surgeon removed 75% of his tumor, and the remaining 25% was diagnosed from a biopsy as a malignant, very aggressive medulloblastoma brain tumor, one of the most deadly forms of brain cancer. The doctors told us Dustin had only a few months to live. The first treatment offered us was radiation. But the radiation doctor told us that at his young age, Dustin would become a vegetable, and it would only extend his life for maybe a few months. The next doctor wanted us to enroll Dustin in a experimental chemotherapy, which was highly toxic. The side effects would include hearing loss, kidney and liver damage, bladder, stunted growth, and a possible leukemia. One question I would like to ask is, would you do that to your child? We weighed the harm these experimental drugs would cause against the fact that they would not cure Dustin, and decided not to subject him to these drastic measures. But our oncologists told us that their opinion took precedence over us as parents. This put added stress to the already stressful situation we were in. In April of 1994, we visited Dr. Stanislaw Burzynski in Houston. Dr. Burzynski made us no promises, but said that he often had very good results with brain tumors. At worst, it would not hurt Dustin, and it offered the best hope and a longer quality of life. An MRI 6 weeks after we started Dr. Burzynski's treatment revealed no tumor. We were very overjoyed. Dustin continued antineoplaston therapy. To this day, it has not reappeared. If you look at Dustin right now, he is a happy, healthy 4-year-old. Without this treatment, my son will die.
This is a photo of Dustin Canary at 4 years old in 1996. This is a photo of Dustin Canary at 22 years old in 2013, happily married. And this is a photo of Dustin Canary today, paying it forward by helping to save the lives of others as a firefighter and paramedic.
American cancer patients from now on will have faster and easier access to more promising therapies. For patients with refractory, hard-to-treat cancer, instead of requiring evidence of clinical benefits, such as survival, FDA will rely on objective evidence of partial response, such as tumor shrinkage, as an initial basis for approval. We will eliminate unnecessary paperwork that used to delay or discourage cancer research by non-commercial clinical investigators. I'd be happy to take a few questions.
Yes, sir. Will FDA's initiatives that you announced today expedite the current review of antineoplastons treatments?
The FDA's initiatives will allow the agency to rely on smaller trials, fewer patients, if there is evidence of partial response in clinical trials. I don't want to get into any particular agent, except let me point out that the information needs to be part of clinical trials. We will accept less information up front. We're going to require further study after approval because the science has matured. But the important point is that information needs to be gathered through scientific means, through clinical trials. And I think that's very important point. You can't just use an agent here or there. You have to use it as part of a clinical trial so we can get information on whether the drug works.
Will patients who have taken other forms of cancer treatments, chemo or radiation treatments, be allowed to participate in trials for antineoplastons?
The agency has many trials, has approved trials for patients with antineoplastons, yes.
What are antineoplastons for the layman here?
Again, I don't want to focus on any one particular cancer compound. They relate to certain compounds that are being used and being promoted by a physician in Texas. We are committed to providing expanded access and availability to American patients for any drug that there's reason to believe may work.
While the FDA was conducting clinical trials of antineoplastons, they would not back down in making sure Burzynski's criminal trial moved forward. Federal prosecutors concede that a cancer doctor they will put on trial here in January for using an innovative but unapproved drug has been saving lives. The prosecution marks the first time the FDA has tried to jail a scientist for using a drug on which he is conducting FDA-authorized clinical trials. In a pretrial motion, Assistant U.S. Attorney Mike Clark objected to a defense request for the jury to visit the chemical plant where Dr. Burzynski manufactures antineoplaston. The jury visit request is a thinly veiled effort to expose the jury to the specter of Dr. Burzynski in his act of saving lives. Whether antineoplaston does or does not work is not an issue, and the jury should not be asked to decide the question. He added that if the issue comes up at trial, it would be an irrelevant, emotional, prejudicial, and misleading concern.
The issue of whether antineoplastons work may not even come up during the trial. The judge says that's not relevant, but the defense contends that's exactly the point, that what was done in developing the drug and administering it was done to save lives.
This trial cost the American taxpayer $60 million, while costing Dr. Burzynski over $2.2 million.
The trial is expected to last about 2 months. The jury will then decide whether Burzynski is a fraud or a medical pioneer.
On March 4th, 1997, due to a deadlocked jury, the judge declared a mistrial. And after saying the government had not presented sufficient evidence, he ordered that Dr. Burzynski be acquitted of nearly half of the 75 counts.
You voted to acquit?
To acquit, absolutely.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
I voted for acquittal.
I voted my mind and my heart.
I do not believe that Dr. Burzynski is a criminal.
And I had voted to acquit.
But the FDA was still not backing down. They took Dr. Burzynski to trial again. Though, after apparently accepting the absurdity of their case, on May 19th, the FDA suddenly dropped 40 of the 41 remaining charges. The FDA's facade in trying to convince the world that Burzynski was a criminal was completely unraveling. Even the jurors who voted not guilty in the first case took time off of work to join the patient's protest in front of the courthouse during the second case.
I am appalled at the Food and Drug Administration and their actions.
We're here today basically to protest the witch hunt that's going on by the FDA.
We have to stick together and really support these patients that are suffering, not only health-wise, but having to come down here to make a stand against the FDA.
Please don't waste my money abusing the system to make sure that you maintain your power.
The jury spent about 3 hours deliberating this house of cards, leaving Burzynski acquitted of the final charge.
Every one of Dr. Burzynski's patients now, every future Burzynski patient is and will be on a clinical trial.
There were many patients who would like to testify in our behalf and convince the jury and the judge that without the treatment they will die. But the judge did not admit any statements which could show that the treatment is effective. The judge did not allow the jury to visit our facility where we produce medicine. They were trying to keep it away from the jury if this information would be presented to the jurors. And then this trial would be finished very quickly. And that's what the jurors told us, because after the trial we talked to the jurors, and they were shocked that such information about the treatment, which is saving the life of a patient, was not presented to them. And I was sick listening to the lies of prosecutors from U.S. attorneys. It was not necessary for them to do it. They could tell the truth. They represented the biggest power, but they still were doing this all the time. So they were trying to do it a sneaky way. And that's what is horrible, okay? That's what should be exposed, because I think the United States deserves better.
While all of this was taking place, Burzynski had hired a contract scientist, Dr. Dvorit Samid, to independently study antineoplastons. Dr. Samid presented her antineoplaston's work at an oncology symposium in Switzerland, which landed her and antineoplastons on the cover of Oncology News. However, after the National Cancer Institute verified that antineoplastons were indeed effective against cancer, as documented by Michael Friedman, the then Associate Director of the National Cancer Institute, antineoplastons deserve a closer look. The human brain tumor responses are real. The National Cancer Institute then recruited Dr. Dvorit Samid with the hopes of her helping the United States government steal the antineoplaston compounds from Burzynski.
In 1994, I started working for Dvorit Samid. She didn't let me know that one of those compounds is from Burzynski, Dr. Burzynski. It was quite amazing in the lab, because if you find a compound that has anti-cancer activity and then you find a bunch of analogs, it's like you stumbled in a pile of gold. So people would think, hey, say, patents, that sort of thing. Dvorit, under her leadership, we find a lot of biological activities of these compounds. So it would have anti-cancer activity. So the scientists at Johns Hopkins try to patent these compounds. But of course, Dvorit was working with Iran Pharmaceutical Company at that time. So those guys at Johns Hopkins didn't have any chance of patenting those compounds. So, but it's interesting that she would complain in the lab and saying that these guys, it's try to, go behind her back and patent these compounds.
While Burzynski was facing continuous harassment from state and federal agencies, he had successfully treated the sister-in-law of the chairman and CEO of Elan Pharmaceuticals, which led Elan to then partner with Dr. Dvorit Samid and the National Cancer Institute in filing 11 duplicate patents of Burzynski's invention, in hopes that he would be in jail by the time that they were approved, leaving Burzynski unable to defend the theft of his invention.
And as we know, all of this was done based on the fact that the United States, which is National Institute of Health, together with pharmaceutical company, which is Elan Pharmaceuticals, was trying simply to steal my invention. That's what they wanted, okay? It's not that we had successful visit from the National Cancer Institute in which they determined that this treatment works great. And they decided that we should go through phase 2 clinical trials, which will be sponsored by them. No, this gave the idea of some higher-ups at FDA to conspire with pharmaceutical company so that they can steal the invention from me and get it because it was good, okay? So that's the whole story, okay? And they knew that if I be still free, they won't be able to do it. Because they knew that if I would sue them, they would have a chance in court because we have our patents before, okay? So that's why the attempts from them to wipe me out financially, to put me to prison, to attack me from every possible angle, FDA, which is federal government, state government, to be able to steal my invention, okay? That's the real thing from the National Cancer Institute and Elan Pharmaceutical. They failed. We survived and we moved forward.
They in some time have a creed. It's to separate the medicine from the medicine man. And of course, these higher up at NCI or whatever, they think, hey guys, we have been doing this for years. We know what's going on. If you can outsmart the medicine man, you can cut a piece of a pie for yourself. That's the name of the game. If you cannot be the first one, if you can the second one and be bigger than the first one, still, why not? That's the mentality. You know, under the capitalist sun, there's nothing sacred. Money talks.
The smearing campaign against us continues from good doctors, from American Medical Association, from American Cancer Society, despite the fact that it should stop a long time ago.
What do you mean by this plaston study? What is that?
Antineoplastons are peptides, which I discovered, which can stimulate genes which fight cancer and which can decrease the activity of the genes which cause cancer. These are molecular switches.
You published that?
Yes, I published about 300 articles.
And
I presented
that?
numerous at numerous
Well, that seems revolutionary. Do you discount that?
I've known of what he's been doing, and I think, you know, the work that he's doing, there's no scientific evidence that it provides any benefit for cancer patients.
I don't know why Dr. Black is not telling the truth. We conducted 12 phase 2 clinical trials under strict FDA supervision. In every one of these trials, we have objective responsive treatment. We prove that treatment works, that treatment can cure incurable brain tumors. The patients can live not only over 5 years tumor-free, but over 10 years tumor-free from the types of tumors where chemotherapy can do absolutely nothing. This is well documented. This was reviewed by the top specialists in the United States, but it was never reviewed by Dr. Black. He didn't review even a single case treated by us.
Why are you not
we
open
treated
to...
patients whom Dr. Black advised do not come to us 11 years ago for incurable brain tumors. Her tumor was gone in 2 months. She's now 11 years later in perfect health, living here in LA. And Dr. Black told her, you'll be wasting time and money coming to Dr. Burzynski.
Why are you not as a good doctor? Why are you not open to this?
Well, actually, I'm open to anything that would benefit my patients.
When you look at what is going on and how Dr. Burzynski is being handled, it is clearly a function of, you know, anytime you have big business, big government, big labor, big pharma, big cancer industry, whatever, they become so wrapped up in protecting the institution, whatever it is, that they forget what their fundamental job is. You know, and what's happened with big pharma and big cancer is they kind of, you know, they've forgotten to be curious about that there might be other opportunities and options out there, and they're focused on protecting their turf.
Special interest groups are making every possible attempt to derail the approval of antineoplastons, demonize their inventor, while strategically trying to confuse the public about the truth of this story and the invention of antineoplastons themselves. The primary weapon in their propaganda efforts is what is defined as an astroturf campaign.
What is astroturf? It's a perversion of grassroots, as in fake grassroots. AstroTurf is when political, corporate, or other special interests disguise themselves and publish blogs, start Facebook and Twitter accounts, publish ads, letters to the editor, or simply post comments online. to try to fool you into thinking an independent or grassroots movement is speaking. The whole point of AstroTurf is to try to give the impression there's widespread support for or against an agenda when there's not. AstroTurf seeks to manipulate you into changing your opinion by making you feel as if you're an outlier when you're not.
This anti-Burzynski propaganda campaign began in November of 2011 with science blogs, which nearly went under after accepting paid propaganda messages masked as editorials by corporate giant PepsiCo, as well as science-based medicine, which in turn spawned the website The Houston Cancer Quack under the guise of an AstroTurf organization called the Skeptics for the Protection of Cancer Patients. After this bogus group was established, they opened Facebook pages, Twitter accounts, blog incessantly, start petitions, even comparing Burzynski's FDA-sanctioned activities to the infamous Tuskegee experiment, where doctors intentionally gave scores of African Americans syphilis. This group also launched a grossly deceiving and manipulative website called the Other Burzynski Patient Group, which consists of a list of unconfirmed former patients allegedly treated by Burzynski's organization who allegedly died under its care, without providing the unsuspecting reader full names or sources. This effort was created to usurp a legitimate organization called the Burzynski Patient Group, which has been in existence since the 1990s. This group also bombards the FDA and the Texas Medical Board with petitions, emails, and phone calls accusing those agencies of not doing their job in stopping the Burzynski Clinic and the Burzynski Research Institute from continuing to operate. This group has also managed to fool unsuspecting members of the mainstream press, like Liz Scheibo of USA Today. After they assembled all of these propaganda components on their chessboard, they then deleted the Stanislaw Burzynski and Antineoplaston Wikipedia pages and consolidated them into a single Burzynski Clinic Wikipedia page that they exclusively control. By linking to the articles by members of the press they've manipulated, linking to their own blog posts, while also leaving commentary on PubMed, pretending to be medical experts and reviewers, and then deviously use their own fraudulent medical review commentary as Wikipedia sources to give the illusion that there is overwhelming opposition to the safety and efficacy of antineoplastons. This group has also infiltrated and manipulated a global group that calls themselves the Skeptics, a group that ironically promotes critical thinking and the scientific method. The following is what happens when an unsuspecting, card-carrying skeptic who's had the wool pulled over his eyes by this devious group is confronted with fact.
And this has been going on for 35 years with no published results in a peer-reviewed journal.
That is absolutely untrue. You guys, because you haven't read it, you take the position that it doesn't exist.
From where I'm coming from, I've done a lot of research. I haven't found anything other than the
research. Where did you do your research?
You can look on Medline, you can look on PubMed, you can search. I mean, you can search Burzynski, you can search antineoplastons.
Have you ever talked to Dr. Burzynski? Have you ever been to Houston?
No.
Have you ever gone to the clinic? Wouldn't you say that it would be a much more effective way and a much better way of getting at the truth of what's going on if you go and talk to him?
No, because I haven't talked to every single person in the world who I've ever heard something that I have researched and found to be false. I mean, you don't necessarily believe in unicorns.
I have been contacted by numerous people, if not dozens at this point, of a lot of people that have been personally hurt by what you guys are doing.
Well, one thing I could tell you for certain.
I'm telling you now, it's not right. It's not. You're not doing a morally good thing, and you're hurting people, and people may die as a result of what you're doing. And you think you're saving people, but you're not.
And this is what happens when a legitimate member of the skeptic community finds out what these AstroTurf imposters have maliciously done in their name.
This film was great. I don't have a question, but I think that one of the people on can respond. Know that there's a skeptic that was introduced in your film, which I am appalled by, being a skeptic myself. I operate on promoting science. I have skeptics groups. I have over 1,000 people in my group in Orange County, and I think that I'm going to recommend this movie to all of them.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. History hasn't changed much. Scientific fact continues to be often based not on science or peer review, but the projected illusion and manufacturing of a perceived majority consensus.
So it's August 26th, 2015.
Yes.
Yeah. Last time I saw you guys was in 2012.
We've definitely come a long way. We got married last year, so yeah, it's a miracle, you know. And we've just done everything we can to get on and enjoy our life. Yes! Dr. Burzynski's treatment saved her life. People can think what they want, you know, because, you know, a lot of people think that Dr. Burzynski is, I don't know, a fraud, a charlatan, a crook, or whatever they want to think. And I kind of kept all of this away from her, and I didn't want her to see how much hatred there is for this guy. But I remember Dr. Burzynski saying something to me. I said, why do you keep doing this, you know? And he said, I have to, you know, I have to keep going. He said, but I probably won't get recognized for this work until I'm dead. And, you know, there isn't a day goes by when I don't think how lucky we are, but how it scares the crap out of me that there are a lot of people who might never get this treatment, and there's a lot of people who are convinced, absolutely 100%, that this treatment doesn't work. We want to say thank you, obviously, to you, Eric, because if you hadn't have made this film, I probably never would have found out about the treatment. I want to say a massive thank you to Dr. Burzynski and all of the people in his clinic, because, you know, they went to great lengths to help us. Yeah. You know, this treatment didn't work for everyone, but it definitely worked for some people. We spent 7 weeks at that clinic.
Hi, Daddy.
Hello, how are you?
Yeah, I'm sorry for ringing so late.
That's right.
But I'm ringing with really, really good news.
Good, that's what I want to hear.
Go on, you tell.
Well, you tell him.
I don't think I can.
Go on.
Tell me. Come on.
My tumour has already shrunk by 10%.
You're fucking hell, man. Fuck. That is
brilliant.
Absolute amazing.
None of the doctors who treated Hannah, the oncologist, none of them are interested in what, you know, the fact 5 years, she's nearly now 5 years, which means what? In cancer treatment, that means you're cured, right?
Yeah.
Thinking, I mean, you made that up, but anyway, there are people out there all over the world, this treatment could save their life, and they'll probably never, ever, ever get it. You know, the other thing is, which a lot of people don't know, this Japanese paper, this Japanese data was a phase 2 independent randomized trial, and that's what so many people wanted to see. But it's just so easy to say, oh, no, push it away, push it away, push it away. But because the study wasn't very big, and they put the words in it that basically say it wasn't a big enough number, people just disregard it. It's like toilet paper. And who knows, maybe there'll be a happy ending to this, that this drug gets approved.
Two years ago, we finished our phase 2 clinical trial program. We finished successfully 14 phase 2 clinical trials under FDA supervision, which proved not only increased response rate according to the protocol, which means there was a proof of efficacy coming from phase 2 clinical trials, and a proof that the treatment is well tolerated. So basically, after we finished clinical trial program here in the United States, and after our Japanese colleagues reported exciting data in the treatment of colorectal cancer, which spread to the liver by running randomized controlled clinical trials, which shows doubling long-term survival in such patients, we found ourselves under horrible harassment by regulatory agencies and by people who were hired by our adversaries. Then the last stage of quote-unquote war against us started. We are exposed to one of the longest in the history inspection by the FDA, which lasted almost 3 months. Then after we are able to sort out the issues with the FDA, and FDA gave us green light to proceed with additional clinical trials and move forward with the approval process, we were furiously attacked by Texas Medical Board, based on some frivolous charges. We had audit by Internal Revenue Service or IRS. We have also submitted to audit by Security and Exchange Agency. And these things, obviously, we have nothing against, but it costs a lot of time and it costs a lot of money. We are out of this, except for Texas Medical Board, which continue to harass us and clearly would like to destroy our clinic. Would like to close our clinic. Started litigation of me personally and oncologists and the other doctors who are working for our clinic. So simply, their action is aimed to destroy our activities, and they would like to rush to do it quickly because they realize that we are very close to final approval of our medication. For some reason, they don't want to have cure of cancer.
It's almost like a cancer industrial complex now, and it's heart-wrenching.
But I'm mainly here because I feel like I owe Dr. Burzynski to show people that what he does is not quackery. I mean, I was given, 2 months to live, and here I am 7 years later, and I'm totally fine.
If you'd have seen the x-ray she had on her lungs, it was totally white. 60 days later, we did another x-ray, gone, nothing in there. And, what he discussed it with us, it just made perfect sense that, if you're not working for the FDA or the drug companies, there's a way to cure cancer.